Good evening. We will call our meeting to order at 6 and start with any agenda adjustments.
I don't have any. I had put, just so the board knows, a superintendent's evaluation process for non-public, but that's the only non-public item we have. Okay. That's that.
Okay. Any correspondence, resignations, retirements, nominations at all?
Yes, I have a couple different things. The first one is I received a letter last, I think it was Tuesday, so I was going to bring it to the board meeting on Wednesday. It's from the Brookline Fire Chief. Our fire system alarm has been setting off what's called a nuisance alarm. Every day you test the fire system so a signal goes through, and that test gets recorded. And if you have 5 times during 365 days that it sets off another alarm, that's called a nuisance alarm. It has nothing to do with if we pull the fire alarm light now, it's going to work. All our systems are up and running. Lance has been working probably since June, okay? And in June, it was a big issue, and then we started the construction, so it kind of got put on the back burner. So the chief reached out to me the other day in a memo, and he wants it cleared up, which we agreed with totally. So he's kind of asked that we submit a plan by November 15th, which we will do, just to give the board an update. We plan to install what's called a cellular communicator. It's more working off like, I'm going to use like a cell phone, but it's not a cell phone. It's installed into the system. It costs somewhere between $1,200 and $2,400, and we believe this will correct the problem. Lance has communicated with the chief on a regular basis since about 10 days ago, as well as the Hollis Dispatch, and we'll submit a plan, because that's really what the chief is asking for, is some sort of plan of how we're going to approach this. But this does highlight one of the pieces that we'll be talking about as we go through budgets and things. Just your alarm panels and that are now reaching 20 years old and older and are a mess. So we will do that, and we'll update the board probably the 30th this month with if that cellular piece was successful, and if not, what are the next steps we would take. If it became a true issue of concern, what we would do is they would put a firefighter in the building with a walkie-talkie, because we would never sacrifice children's safety. We're not there yet, and we've gone through this prior in both our other districts. And it really does go along with the age of the detective. But I wanted to let you know that it come in, it became priority number 1, and that's moving.
On that,
Sure.
When we do the plan, does the fire department have a chance to review that and concur, kind of, so we know where?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we have to submit it
Yeah.
to them for their approval.
And then after that, we purchase and.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, in this case, because we've had a number of companies out, we believe this cellular piece will do the trick, but it's also one of those things you have to do it to find out if it is the solution.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you're eliminating problems as you go. But the chief is involved and will be throughout the process.
Thanks.
Next, I have a resignation. I'm sorry.
Can I ask you a question about that? So I just want to make sure I understand. So this is like alarming at the fire department, and the fire department has to call the school to make sure that there's not actually a fire?
No, what happens is our end sends a signal,
Yeah.
okay? And that test should be picked up every day. And the problem is it's not being picked up every day.
Oh,
okay?
okay. So
But-
instead of like an alarm going off that's not really going off here, they're
Correct.
not getting our test
Correct.
daily?
Right,
Okay.
because let's say at 10 o'clock tonight, something went off here. Either Dan or Tricia is going to get a call from the Hollis Dispatch or myself, whoever they can get to, and try to figure out what's going on, if anything's going on in the building. So it's something that needs to be addressed, but at the same time, we've dealt with this issue with our other districts. And I think I'll know more. I did ask Lance to kind of put together a memo for me of all the different things, and we'll have that by the end of the month's meeting. I have a resignation. As I had told the board, We have Amanda Moran will be moving on. Amanda is accepting a position in a neighboring district that allows her to go back on a teacher's contract and do school psychology, which was her passion. She writes that I am grateful for the opportunity to have served the Brookline community, families, and staff for the past 6 years. The connections I have made here and my belief in the good that is being done within our schools for the ultimate benefit of our students have made this a difficult decision. By choosing to accept a different position, I am able to pursue my professional passion and do what is my best for my family. And I've had many discussions with her. I absolutely support this. Have been through this type of issue in my own family, trying to figure out daycare and schedules and time commitment, so I wish her nothing but the best. At the same time, I just want to give the board kind of a, what's the stopgap measure to make sure things are covered. What we're doing, first of all, Lauren is going to generate quite a bit of her time to this, physically coming over to Brookline. She will do some of her SAU responsibilities, but do all of the major IEP meetings that would occur. What we're also doing, Dan, Tricia, and Bob Boulette, will be covering some 504 meetings in that as LEAs to kind of take that burden off. And then some of you may know her, some of you may not, Brenda Golia. Brenda graduated, Brenda retired a few years ago from the Hollis School District. Her specialty is the preschool and kindergarten ages. So Brenda is going to come on and take over that segment. And she's actually going to do it for both districts because it's a huge piece. And that has the most volatility because children are always aging into the program because it's whenever you turn 3, you get to come to school. We will be providing the board an update probably in our December meeting, just how things are going. We continue to advertise. We feel very confident that we'll attract the right candidate in the long haul. And we are also going to look at, there's a potential for us to potentially be backfilling the assistant SAU director's position. So if we do that, we'll be able to create some greater flexibility. And in order to make this work for Lauren, because you can't just simply add on, we have one of our former administrators in special ed went back to the classroom for her own personal reasons, but she has volunteered, well, she hasn't volunteered, she will be receiving a stipend to take on some of the out-of-district placements. So Lauren's giving up about, 2/3 of that caseload, so it should free up time. It's not ideal, but I think, between all the different steps we're taking, it should work out. And I can tell you, just having Bob around as another pair of hands is making a big difference with us getting into classrooms to Dan to do observations. And I will share with you that Bob absolutely loves it. Yeah, absolutely loves it. His first day, he said the biggest thing that really rattled him, he never understood how many juice boxes he would need to open or shoes he would need to tie.
Yeah.
But, as we're affectionately calling him now, Grandpa, is doing just great. Yeah.
That's awesome. I worked with Brenda, and she's amazing.
Yeah.
She knows her stuff in special ed, and just a perfect personality for that position.
Yeah.
So I'm glad
Yeah.
you were able to get her.
And we're very grateful that she was willing to come out of retirement.
Yeah.
We've pulled a lot of people back in this year. Next, I have 2 retirements, okay? This one is from CSDA. After 35 years of teaching, 14 years at Richard Mahaki Memorial School, and the remaining years at Captain Samuel Douglas Academy as a 4th and 5th grade teacher. I have decided to announce my retirement at the end of the contracted school year. During my time in the Brookline School District, I have been fortunate enough to accomplish several career goals. My greatest achievement has been my students. Through the years, I have received several letters and cards from my past students stating the goals and honors that they have received. For my students to write and let me know their achievements makes my heart warm. This is what my work is all about. Over the years, I have had the opportunity to learn from many special and professional colleagues. I have also had the opportunity to influence them as well. Having the chance to mentor colleagues was a great love that I had. It is my hope that they will be able to practice the expertise I shared in years to come. It is time for me to let our young, thriving teachers come in and tackle the new challenges that our teaching career is asking of them. It is time for me to pursue other goals that I have wanted to achieve, spending precious time with my family, caring for my aging parents, and as well as time to explore the world. I take this opportunity to thank the Brookline School Board for the opportunity to touch our future. And gratefully sent in, but regretfully accepted from Rennell Stone. Yeah. So I would need a motion on Rennell, obviously with deep regrets. She's somebody who I personally got to know in my tenure and just enjoyed going into her room because, again, her heart's always been in the right place. In 35 years is quite an accomplishment.
Do you want to do the other one, and then we'll go through all three of the
Sure.
motions?
Yep. The second one is from Richard Mahakian. Please accept my retirement from the position as school counselor at the Richard Mahakian Memorial School. My last day will be the end of the 22-23 school year. During the 18 years I have held this position, the students I have worked with have given me great pleasure. The staff and community have been very supportive during my tenure with the school district and have offered me many opportunities to grow professionally and personally. If I could be of any assistance during the remainder of my term in regards to helping the transition of a new counselor, please let me know. And again, regretfully, from my point of view, that came to us from Deb Bowery.
Okay.
So Deb and Rennell are the ones that need a motion.
Thank you. Do we need to do one for Amanda for effective immediately too, or?
Amanda's November 27th.
Okay, so we'll start with a motion to accept the resignation of Amanda Moran at the Brookline School System, effective date of November 20th. Please. Second, thank you. Thank you to Amanda. Anything else?
Is it November 22nd or November 20th?
And
When is it?
her letter to me, her letter to me is November 27th, 2022.
No, effective date of November 27th, 2022.
Thank you for catching that, Kelly.
Want to re-second that?
Re-second.
Thank you.
That was a huge loss, but I do wish her well on her next journey.
Yep. Okay, all in favor? 4-0, thanks. All right, next, make a motion to accept the letter of intent to retire received from Rennell Stone with an effective date at the end of this contracted year.
Second.
Okay, similar sentiments, and we thank her
Well,
for all
I
her
would just
service.
say, she was an amazing teacher for my son, that's it, but I'm happy for her.
Yeah.
And I know, you know, she's doing what's right for her and her family, but she was amazing, so.
Very good.
But I'm in favor.
All right, all those in favor? 4-0, thank you. Okay, and last I will make a motion to accept the letter of intent to retire received from Deb Bowery with an effective date at the end of the contracted year.
Second.
Okay, and again, thank you for your service. All those in favor? All right, 4-0, very good, thank you.
That's it for correspondence, resignations, retirements, and nominations.
All right, thanks. So we'll move to approval of minutes. First one is our September 28th meeting. Following amendments were offered. Replace, on page 4, line 8, replace member Mikovic with member Zacher. Page 6, line 37, replace ask with as. And page 8, line 2, replace is with does. So I will make a motion to accept as amended. Need a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Carries 4-0, thanks. Then our non-public that evening, the following amendment was offered, page 1, line 25, replace AP with assistant principal. So I'll make a motion to accept as amended.
Second.
All those in favor? 4-0, and that's it. So now we can move to any public input? We got a head nod no, so very good. We will move over to the principal's report.
Okay,
Mr.
good
Malone.
evening. We have our Brookline School District Principal's Report embedded, and that is our presentation with our goals for the school year. This is a overview of our enrollment, and we projected this the last few school board meetings with a historical view as well. This is our enrollment currently. So as you can see, in the district we have 587 students in Brookline, 328 at RMS, 259 at CSDA. And this is just an overview, some highlights from our school year so far. Our grade 3 students continue to calculate and support our food pantry project that we've had for many years now. I think about, could be 6 now, 7. And we want to thank all the Brookline families for their contributions. Mrs. Winters, who helps lead that, recently heard from the Brookline Food Pantry, and they just shared how much they've supported them and how many families. I don't have to have the number off the top of my head of how many families have been supported, but Angie Dacey, who runs the food pantry project out of the town hall, has just said it's been tremendous. And it's well stocked if you ever want to visit it. We recently had our Brookline Book Fair, the RMS Book Fair, and we held that in the gym this year just because of the construction project. We usually hold that in the library, and it was really well run. I believe there was $8,000 worth of sales. Every student went home with a book, and we can't thank the PTO enough and all the volunteers that came to support that event. It takes a lot of work to help the students calculate what they have for money and all the books they want to buy. You know, a lot of smiles and a lot of tears too. So, on November 18th, we have a fall festival that's being run by our PTO as well. That's going to be a really great event. It's a mix of astronomy night at RMS. We're going to have some fun fall activities. You can come pie, Mrs. Boulay and I. So really fun night to get our families involved, and also get membership up in the PTO as well. We are deep in with our parent conferences going on at both RMS and CSD. They started mid-October and they're running through mid-November. But those are going really well. It's great to see the parents coming into the building now. We saw that at open house, but now again with parent conferences. Many of our classes are supporting the holiday card challenge for the for the troops that are our heroes, and the students are making them cards and during this holiday times. And we have Hollis is also participating in that holiday card challenge. We had a wonderful Halloween parade on Monday. Yeah.
It's been a long couple of days.
We did this during COVID as well, the parade. We kept it going, but it was just a great turnout. The kids had some wonderful costumes. It was a beautiful day, so it was great to have that. RMS has been doing our walking field trips to the library. Every class is gone. We have a few more left. We had one today, and there's a couple more in November, but it's great, and it was great to have this going on, especially where we don't have our library up and running. So at least all students are being able to pick out some books, get a library card, and kind of get that move and break as well. Grade 6 is going to Miller State Park. That's at the summit of Pac-Monadnock. It's a approximately 2,300 foot mountain. So they are doing that trip. JP Royer, Lieutenant Royer from the fire department, has come and done fire prevention at both buildings, and he's visited every class, and that's been great. And we appreciate that partnership with our town officials and safety officials. And then we had a wonderful PTO golf tournament. It was the first year's run. We had, I think, 51 golfers.
Wow.
They brought in, I believe, 8,000 as well from that. Wow. And it's going to be up and running again next year, and they're looking for a date of September next year. But it was well attended. I got a lot of the dads who aren't able to come to the PTO meetings to participate and be involved, and we also had some moms that golfed as well. It was just a great turnout, and some great raffle prizes, some great donations, just a lot of support. We had some platinum sponsors, gold level sponsors, and it was just well run, so PTO did a great job with that. This is just a highlight of some of the facility and security upgrades we did this summer. And I'm just going to mention a couple. At CSDA, they had their walkway ADA accessibility enhancement that they did. And then at both buildings, we did the parking lot seal. And then at RMS, obviously, we had the phase 1 of our project, which is going really well. And just to give you it, actually, I think that's on the agenda to talk about anyway, so we can come back to that. But those are some of the big pieces of our facility projects this summer. Some of the budgetary objectives for FY24. In terms of academic, currently we have Shannon Dwyer, a retired teacher from Brookline, doing our reading workshop trainings with our teachers at both buildings. And we're looking to bring her back again next year for writing, and that's been great. She's also doing trainings around the state, so she's expert at that. She has a great rapport with the teachers and very supportive. So academically, that's something that we're looking to bring back in the FY24 budget. In terms of safety, we're still looking at the school resource officer. That's on the table. And then in terms of facilities, we're looking at the HVAC at both buildings. Those are just some highlights of that. Mrs. Boulay and I, and we want to just bring this to the board's attention of, any questions about goals, evaluation, how we observe the teachers. Every annual teacher, so that's years 1 through 5, they are observed 4 times a year, and we do those observations from September all the way up through, like, say, mid-March. And after every observation, we do a face-to-face meeting with them to go over classroom culture, management of the class, the learning environment, and the delivery of instruction. And then the continuing contract staff, so that's your, say, tenured staff, your veteran staff, they have 2 observations. They now have this year, what we've added is they can get 2 observations, or they can elect to do 1 observation and a self-reflection. So that's the newest change of our PGM model, and that stands for Professional Growth Model. And then all the forms of our observation model align to their job description. So the guidance counselor has their own form. The case manager has a form specific to their job. Teachers have a job-specific evaluation. The nurse does, the librarian. So it's catered to each job type to give that feedback. And then every teacher does a beginning of the year goal, a mid-year goal, and an end-of-the-year goal. And at the mid-year goal and the end-of-the-year goal, we meet face-to-face. And there's 1 personal goal, and then they have a PLC goal. So 2 goals for every educator. Okay.
Dan, the
Yep.
annual staff, they're paired with a mentor, I believe, too, right, throughout?
The annual staff, if you're a first-year teacher,
First-year teachers are.
they have
okay.
a mentor.
Okay.
And we try to have their mentor be someone on their team or have a similar job type.
Okay, thanks.
And there's also a building coach at both buildings. So for here, Tim Putnam's the building coach, and at RMS, it's Stephanie Rogers.
Thanks.
Yep. And then they meet every other month. All the mentors and mentees meet together. And then every other month, they meet as an SEU group, all the new staff. I know today the mentors at our building met with our mentees, and they had a kind of more of it was more of a balanced activity, but they brought in some yoga and just did some discussion about what things are going well. They talked about parent conferences, but we had a yoga instructor come in too, just to help with that social emotional piece and balance. So this is our buckets. We've been sharing this the last few years. It's broken down for goals of infrastructure, future ready, essential standards, and habits of learning. The entire district follows this model. So this is the framework. These are the 6 traits of a Cavalier at the high school level, and this trickles down to each of our building levels. So emotional intelligence, communicators, resilience, critical thinkers, innovators, and being culture aware are the 6 that are focused on at the high school, and then we support that. In terms of infrastructure in Brookline, our goal is to monitor our physical assets and looking at our projected enrollment, and just to make sure that we're providing a safe and optimal learning environment. One of the highlights this year that we're looking at is the CSDA playground. So just recently, we were able to get CSDA connected with the playground company that came to RMS, and they came out, did a site visit, and they're going to be coming back with some plans. And the PTO is going to help support some of the funding of that, and I believe Mrs. Boulay is also budgeting some of that into our school budget as well, but the PTO is looking to support that other part like they did at RMS. So that's the big focus or highlight for infrastructure. In terms of future ready, at both buildings, we've refined and have implemented and are piloting our school-wide behavior expectations. As you can see, there's a small little sample picture of both of them at both buildings, RMS and CSDA. And at both buildings, we are holding school-wide assemblies where we review some of these behavior expectations. We've done a Tiger performance at our school in an assembly, and I believe CSDA has already done 2 assemblies as well. So, and we're also recognized positive behavior at our buildings with Blue Jay slips and the PAW Award at CSDA. And in terms of habits of a learner, that is our MTSS system. That's our multi-tiered system of supports. And how we're addressing this goal is we're just monitoring our data that we are getting from our Ames Web testing. We finished our Ames Web in October, and once we had that data, we are meeting as grade level teams and with our specialists to start forming our tier 2 interventions with the reading specialist, the math specialist, and then within the grades. The students that are receiving tier 2 interventions, these are students that aren't typically on an IEP, because that would be our tier 3 students. But if they're on a tier 2 intervention, they all get a learning profile. And on that learning profile, if they meet with a math specialist, they get their intervention, and then there's notes taken on that form of what's being done, so we can kind of close those gaps.
Is the MTSS the position that, right, that's the thing?
Those were the instructional assistants.
So
We had
we
4,
keep
and those are
holding-
just, yeah, we've been unable to fill those.
So you said, so instead the data's trickling down to the curriculum coordinators and they're helping?
The reading and math specialists.
Okay.
Yep. And then, in addition, the students that are seeing so say you have 20 kids in a class.
Mhm.
You may have 5 kids that go to either a math or reading specialist. The other 15, they're then broken up into groups in the classroom during the win time, what I need time, or the flex time at CSDA, doing some targeted skills. Or they may, like in 3rd grade, during the win time, the students that aren't seeing a reading and math specialist, they go to certain 3rd grade teachers for a targeted skill.
And I have one more question then. I understand the tier 3 and tier 2. Is there anything for accelerated too on the other end of the
Yes.
spectrum?
Yes, we are capturing that in both reading and math. That's a great question. So Mrs. Winters is pulling students that were in the like the 98th, 99th percentile range in math.
Mhm.
And then they're also doing the same for reading as well. So Mrs. Murray, for example, she has a accelerated group for reading that she
Okay,
pulls.
so they break out and do the
So,
same?
yep, so I'm glad you brought that up, because that was something we discussed a few years ago about making sure we don't forget
Right.
those higher learners, so we are targeting as well.
Thank you.
Absolutely, yep. And they may see them 1 or 2 times a week.
Mhm.
Yep. In terms of the last goal we have is the essential standards. We're looking to bring back the STEAM night, or the STEM night that we've done in the past. So we're hoping for a January timeline to do that. It might be February, where each grade level team is going to adopt a curriculum kind of project that will do a night event. And we're looking at doing it at both schools on the same night. So that'd be good to bring back, because that was always a hit.
Yep.
So that concludes our principal's report, goals presentation. Happy to answer any questions in terms of any of those goals, or if you'd like me to address.
I
Yes?
just had one question that's come up with some parents. As far as the accelerated math,
Mhm.
is that no longer happening at CSDA, or is it, are some classes full? Because a couple of parents are saying that they were told, well, it's a full class and therefore your student can't be in it. First of all, I guess, is it, I can ask Mrs.
Yeah,
Boulay too.
maybe we can follow that up at the next meeting, or we
Okay,
can ask her.
yeah.
I don't know. I believe it's still happening. I'm just not,
Okay.
I don't have the.
I didn't know
Yeah,
if between the
it
2
is.
buildings, okay.
It is still.
I know there's some classes in grades where it's happening, but I assumed it was all 3 grades, but just
Yeah.
to be informed
Yeah.
about
I'll
when
bring that back
parents-
to Mrs. Boulay.
yeah.
We can come back with some numbers
Uh-huh.
I don't know
by
if
grade
they-
level.
Yeah.
right? Does that
I don't
sound
know
good?
if they've capped the grades, but 4th and 5th, and then 6th is a compacted
Okay,
6th and
Yeah.
7th grade curriculum.
okay, great.
But I do know that we rely heavily on those Ames Web scores and then classroom observations.
Yeah,
Yes, they are doing it. Yeah.
yeah, okay. I guess so I assume they were doing it, but there's a couple of parents that have asked about that they're hearing the class is full, and I don't know if maybe that's just a communication piece, maybe.
Okay.
You know, so, yeah, we can talk about it further once there's.
Yeah, we'll bring
Because
that
if the
back.
classes are too full between that and RMMS having the math specialists can only really, I heard, see students once every couple of weeks at this point, or is it more than that? It might be, again.
accelerated?
Just for extenders.
Oh, for the-
in
for the
lower.
extensions?
Yeah.
We'll have to look at it by the grade,
Yeah,
we'll have to look at it.
okay.
I know that she's seen them,
Mhm.
and I know it's once a week. At kindergarten, I know that she's seeing those students that are receiving those extensions once a week.
Okay.
I'd have to look at the first grade
Yeah.
and the second grade. In third grade, I think it's twice a week.
Yeah, just kind of like a brief overview next time of
Yeah.
how that's working as we continue to.
Yeah,
kind of-
our math specialist does push in the classrooms, and at that time, she's seen students that are accelerated there too. So,
Okay, all
yeah,
right.
Sure.
Great,
We can talk
thank
more
you.
about that.
Anything else? Is this a good time to talk about the email we shared around?
Sure,
water
I have
teams?
information if you'd like me to share with
Yeah,
that.
is that, it kind of ties into the
Yep.
building, so.
Yeah,
So the question is
you want to set
around.
the stage for it and I can answer?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So we received a question from one of our select board members around water at the RMMS building in particular. There was something stated on public record, I believe, last week, that there was times where water was not available. So we reached out and said we would communicate tonight at our meeting and then fall back up there. So that's what Mr. Muller is gonna talk about.
Sure. So we installed a water filtration system in 2017, or 2017. And this helped, and the purpose of that was to help reduce the sediment that was being found in our Sloan valves, which is the valve that you'll find on the toilets around the building. So at RMS, we have 28 toilets, there's 4 urinals, and then there's 48 sinks. So quite a few appliances. Between toilets and leaks and clogs, or appliances not functioning properly, this has caused us to make announcements in the past that the water is not usable for a period of 5 to 10 minutes, so that we can address the leak, because then there's no pressure to then flush, right? 2 years ago in the fall, so it was that fall, I believe, going into the COVID year, we experienced multiple times where we had to shut the system down, the water system down, for a period of 15 to 20 minutes. And we ended up finding out that the sprinkler system on the ball field was going off in the morning. So as a result, we didn't have enough pressure and buildup of the water pressure in our well. So we had to shut it down for 15, 20 minutes so we could reset. Now that we addressed that sprinkler system is on a different timer. So it goes off at midnight now. I'm sorry, it goes on at midnight and shuts off at 3 in the morning. So there's plenty of time to reset. This year, just to give you into perspective how many times we've had to shut down the water, we've had to shut it down twice. And one of the reasons was we had a malfunction of the hands-free sink in the teacher's room. And then we also found a non-working Sloan valve of one of our 28 toilets. So that's caused, the pressure to be affected. But we've been able to address those quickly. And thanks to Mr. Beach being able to know the systems well, we've been able to address it.
So to pointedly ask.
Hand sanitizer?
Yeah.
Right. That it's available.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's the thing.
And the other thing too is, although we shut it down, if it's an emergency, staff can go, students can go, or the water is just kind of trickling, but we just say if we can all, we stop it for a small period of time so that we can build up the pressure. So.
And that's what I was gonna point out.
And I can continue to track it.
Yeah, I
if it
think
happens
it's probably
again, so we
worth
can
just keeping an
get
eye
more
on it.
data. But there was one year, and it was basically because of the sprinkler. Other than that, we've been doing well with it.
So kids are able to fill up water bottles. If kids go to the bathroom, you can use hand sanitizer in the time, but you're
Yeah.
saying it's a 5-minute window, and it's happened twice this year?
So when the sprinkler system problem, that was 15
That was in
to 20 minutes.
2020, yep, but
Now it's a
that's-
5 to 10 minute,
yep.
10-minute problem,
Okay.
if anything.
And
And it's
it-
been twice this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the sprinkler, did you say the Brookline ball field, the one that's like beautifully
No,
green?
the RMS ball
Our
field.
RMS ball field next
Yes.
door, okay, got
Yep.
it. So that Brookline ball field's on a different well
Yeah,
and
yeah,
everything,
that doesn't
right?
affect
Yeah,
us.
yeah, okay.
That doesn't affect us at all.
Thanks.
Yeah, so, no, I appreciate the concern, and,
Since we're on water, I will also share that we got back our lead testing, and all of our schools passed. You know, And we monitor our water from a chemical point of view on a monthly basis.
Thanks. Okay, so it sounds like this is something we can just keep as an open item just to watch in our school board check-ins if there's
sure,
anything.
yeah,
but
I'll continue to
I'm not
track
hearing
it.
anything that says we have a water issue at RMS based
No,
on what you just said there.
It's really because of the faulty piece, you know, it's an aged building.
Yeah.
and We repair it as we go. you know, so.
Okay, and just to ask explicit, are we turning the water off while we repair something and turn it back on? Is that what's happening, or we've lost pressure because of a leak?
We've lost pressure.
And we're trying to let the
Right.
well pressurize?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Thanks. All right, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Some exciting stuff going on. It's really amazing, the things that are going on. It's wonderful.
Yeah, if you want to talk about the project, I can share with you, if that's where we're on. Are we on the project?
We can talk about the project. You excited? You want to keep going?
Well, we're on water, we're on the building,
Okay.
so, sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the building project's going really great. This past weekend, they were able to cut open the hole to the second level for the elevator, which was exciting. I told them to make the noise extra spooky on Halloween. And our teachers have done a great job of working through the noise. You know, there's times where, you know, luckily they're special sometimes when it is noisy, but it's really two of our third grade classes, if anything. Our office definitely feels it. But they're doing a great job down there. When you enter, the stairwell to the left has been taken out. The security, that's where the security office is. The library ventilation system has been put into place. They're just about ready to start putting in the custom bookcases that will go in there, which would be great. We took out a slop sink janitorial room in there to give a little bit more space in the library. We've created a teacher room in the far corner of our storage area, the long storage area, if you remember that. And then next to that teacher room, there's 3 small offices, about 240 or so square feet, and they're good size, but smaller offices that will be used for intervention spaces. And then we have a tech office, and then a storage room, and then we have our music room. And then on the second level, they're getting ready to start putting in the beams and supports to extend the floor across for the conference room. So I feel like, you know, I was just telling Superintendent Corey that we've really maximized the space down there. It's going to help our school tremendously with room locations and such. But the company we worked with they've got great communication. We're constantly working together, and
Have they communicated a deadline, time completion?
changes all the time.
Well, we're looking at probably being able to start moving everything in February break.
To the library?
Yeah, to the library. You know, again, it's dependent on the delivery of the elevator and things, but I've been very impressed, and right now we're on target and on budget. So very excited about that. And I want to echo Dan's comments, and just our faculty and parents and everybody have been so understanding and just go with the flow. It's been great.
Awesome. That's
The-
great.
The transition to this 2 classrooms in the library, that's been kind of seamless. It's just, I'm having a hard time visualizing. I've got to see that, just
Well,
the
it's-
transfer. Is
Yeah.
it?
Yeah,
Nice
they,
classrooms.
they are, you wouldn't know it was a library.
Wow.
You know what I mean? They did
Yeah.
a great job, because instead of the angled ceiling that used to be there, it's a drop ceiling now. You've got the wall in between. On that shared wall, they have their flat panel boards. You know, it's like they've been there. You know, they really did a nice job, and having those 2 up is really starting to relieve some of the overall stress. And once we're able to move some of the interventions down, that will free up some of the classrooms. So Dan was actually working on it today, and had let me know he believes these changes will allow us to get 5 classrooms at each grade level, which will be nice. This year, the surprise was, kindergarten numbers came in lower than we expected and projected. But at the same time, we're wondering if that's going to be a trend or that's going to be a one-off, because kindergarten's the unknown. Pretty much once we have a group in, we may see a little relief, yeah.
But with this, we will be built out and that building's built out at that point, right? I don't think there's anything
Yes,
spaced
yeah,
out
we'll
anywhere.
be built up, but like Superintendent Corey said, with this change, we'll have 5 classes.
No, I understand that, but I'm
Yeah.
saying there's no more capacity, right? That's
No,
it.
you would have to go with
We
an
would be-
addition
yes.
onto it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Which we
Yeah.
do have plans for that were proposed by the architect.
Yep.
Going towards the basketball court. So we're ready for future growth at the same time as moving forward to deal with the numbers we have. And I think, just to remind the community, the big changes have been, we're educating in 3- and 4-year-olds now. We made the decision to go to all-day kindergarten, so that took up more classrooms. We have intentionally decided to keep special education children in our district as much as possible, rather than put them on a bus. So from a numbers standpoint, enrollment has been this large, but we haven't been accommodating the different programming we have. And the other piece was in 2016, the board made the decision, which I think the community supported, with smaller class sizes. And I think that has been really nice, and I'll be honest, if we had had our old class sizes when I started, and we're having the para problems we're having, it would have been monumental, because at that point, you needed that, second eyes and second hands. We're still in desperate need of paras, so a little plug, anybody out there looking for work, come on down, a couple days a week, whatever you want to do, we'll find you a home.
Take 20 minutes.
Yeah.
With the smaller kindergarten number, this is just out of curiosity, I know we had predicted in multiple areas higher enrollment. Is that a stable number, or is there sometimes a shift from kindergarten to first grade in the last few years after the pandemic? I don't know if you.
What we talked about earlier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
might that kindergarten class, when they go to first grade, might some dual working families have chosen kindergarten in a private school and then first grade?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
that will totally happen.
Yeah.
There's also a population that may have homeschooled
Yes,
as well.
okay,
And then we have the movements, so between the homeschool, the private kindergarten, which is common,
yeah,
because they like their early childhood program that they're currently in, they want to keep that consistency. And then the move-ins, and I feel like I'm missing one other area that,
It was very surprising to see, I believe the current first grade is 80 students.
current first grade is 86 and
Yeah.
kindergarten is 53.
Yeah, so that
That's a
was
big drop.
the number that came into kindergarten, which was just huge.
Right.
And we have experienced bubble classes before. To give you an example, we have one at the co-op because we graduated 230 last year and only brought in about 185, somewhere around there. But that's something we do experience, but it's, in one sense, it's kind of nice because we have a little more flexibility with scheduling of rooms. When we were at over 200 kids in every class at the high school, we were running a room utilization rate well into the 90s.
wow.
Yeah. So I think, I want to thank Dan because he is, the daily person on site. Lance and I come over on a regular basis, but I've been very happy with the company we selected. They're the same company we also used at the co-op, and have done the same outstanding work there, too.
And then we should have a better idea about kindergarten numbers come around March, April. 'Cause that's when we get registrations.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Okay. We good there? Okay, so we want to move to our discussion topic. We'll move to the SAU 41 anti-discrimination plan.
First, the bulk of the credit on this goes through policy and Gina and her work. This is a legally required document which mandated that we compile all our information in one location. So this is kind of an overview or a summary of all the different policies that exist around anti-discrimination and everything we have. And we formulated that into a plan for Brookline for Hollis and the Hollis Brookline Cooperative. This plan will go on the website, and once it's there, we'll have the active links to the, the exact policy. So if you had a question, this is the document you would go to, this document would direct you to your specific concern, and then you'd be able to, in some cases, know who you'd be reporting to, what the procedure is for a parent to follow through on any sort of complaint. And what we wanted to do was just simply provide it in the packet this month. It would be an item that next month will be under deliberation, so that the community and the board has an opportunity to really digest it. There is nothing from a policy standpoint or in this plan that didn't already exist. So we put all the policies in place so that we'd be up and running, and now this plan is that pulling together the overview. And again, Gina and the folks that worked on this just did an outstanding job, and we'll spend some quality time, if there are any questions next month, to go over anything that might be needed to be addressed.
And this, I assume this probably went through a legal review already too?
Yes.
Yeah.
It kind of multiple times, because
Yeah.
each policy goes through legal review, and each policy gets 3 readings at the board.
Right.
So so there really shouldn't be anything in here that a family hasn't seen before. It's just, I think the overall goal of the state, which we agree with, was to kind of put it all in one place and make it easier to find. Because if you ever search for policy in our district, it can be very confusing, because you go in and it's SAU 41, and then you've got to find the right district, and not all the policies are identical, very similar, but not always identical. Yep.
So this will be on the website at the SAU level and
Correct.
its own standalone thing?
Yeah, it's going to be on the front page. Let's see if I can find where I put it. And it'll be on the home page under the Find It Fast tab.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Yep. Thank you.
Super.
Okay, we're at the FY22 year end now.
Yeah, okay. In your board packet, I just wanted to highlight on the Brookline School District FY22, 6/30/22. If you go down to the bottom for actual versus original, I'd just like to start there, if it's okay. First of all, with a correction, it's just a typo, but the special education fund, that should be 25, not 75. Okay? The numbers don't change anywhere else, it was just literally a typo. And what happened is that we ended up in a favorable position at the end of the year, able to give back $455,108 to offset this year's tax rate. The majority of those items or categories were based on the inability to hire. So the majority of savings come to us through that. You may recall, we had talked about one point of using the special education fund balance. We did not need to go there because of the savings in personnel, but we did go over by about $110,000 in special education costs. In terms of the big drivers of that return to the taxpayers is you had $218,967, which was hiring savings from the unfilled positions. In terms of the student support services, there was $85,554, which was, again, hiring savings. And then another very large piece would be under the benefits line, was $125,022, and that was when we didn't hire, we weren't doing a health insurance plan, we weren't contributing to New Hampshire retirement, and we weren't paying FICA on that. So that's significant. What we do is, you'll see momentarily when we look at FY23, we work off the encumbering system. So we encumber pretty much everything. And we've never had that many positions open, and we had hoped to fill, and it's kind of similar to this year. So what we'll probably do this year is try to start releasing that money earlier if we don't anticipate being able to fill the position. We have done a couple things with Bob coming on board. But that money that we'll have, if Amanda is not replaced, will be utilized for Bob and for Brenda Golia. So we're not really expending more in the way of what was allocated, just doing it differently. So we're excited to return that to offset the tax rate. And I'd be happy to take any questions on FY '22, which is now the audited final numbers.
I have two questions. So I'm looking at the one that says 455K, and then I see the 90K on the current balance. Is 455K what's returned after the unreserved fund balance was 774 minus the contingency maintenance special
Yes.
ed? Okay, so it's 455 that we're,
Yes, everything was funded, and then we returned 455.
thanks. And then my second question, understanding everything you just stated on the next page around hiring not going filled, but that 110K, which was kind of new this year, a lot of that should be covered by next year's lag from federal funding, right? We get some percent, it may not be 100.
There'll be an
but-
offset.
But it will be
Yes.
like 60 to 70% of that roughly, or is it even less than that?
Each year the percent comes out, it usually runs low 60s, to be honest
Okay.
with you. But again, it will be dependent on what comes in, and the state will look at the formula they have, and that's what will decide what will offset that.
Okay, but then that rough balance is in our plans moving forward as well, as opposed to being unexpected this year, right?
Correct, it comes in
Yeah.
more in the form of a revenue line.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions at all? Okay,
All right, moving to FY '22. As I said, we're in an encumbering system, so right now, we are projecting a loss, which is the same place we were last year at this time, and it's not uncommon using this system. But if you think about the wealth of positions we still have open, I don't see that happening. We also have a couple special education situations that may or may not see a decrease, because again, we are, as you know, trying to always bring students in-house if we can have the services for them. So I'm not concerned with this at this point. And what we will do is what we've already done, and we did last year, we do have a budget freeze. All right. One of the items that we faced that we may have a couple solutions to was we needed to address some things from ADA compliance immediately, because we had students either moving in or moving up to different buildings. So we made some adjustments to our playground so students would be able to access that. If you were to leave tonight, you'd see the ramp that goes down to the classroom area, a second railing, so that addresses ADA compliance issues. We believe those funds will be ultimately brought to zero because of revenue. We are right now, at this very moment, running under budget on the RMMS project, which was all about ADA compliance, so we would be able to utilize those funds. We'd have a meeting of the board and go through everything so everybody would understand that. In many of the cases, those funds were needed for students with disabilities. So if we were to be struggling, we could offset those with special education trust fund. We could also look at the maintenance trust fund, and last, and always last, would be the retained fund balance. So those would be our options, but what you'll see in 3 months, we'll do another revenue and expense report. We'll see where we are then. If Kelly has concerns at that point, what she normally does is put us on a monthly revenue and expense report so we can track it closely. But it goes okay. I mean, it's not ideal, but with what we've faced to open the year, we're okay with that. I'll take any questions on anything about the first quarter.
Andy, should this be FY '23? As of 10/12/22?
It is, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
You are correct.
all right, sorry. I was
No,
confused.
don't be
I was
sorry.
like, wait, that was FY '22, and then this is FY '23?
I'm glad you said something, because 3 months from now, it still would have been 22.
Yeah, okay.
So that's appreciated.
Very detailed. That's good.
So those ADA projects, we didn't budget for, is it because of, I assume they're unanticipated things that even though we went through all the special ed cycle and budgeting, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Some were unanticipated, some were after discussion, you know, on terms of what is an ADA.
Okay.
Compliance piece in that, and working with legal.
Mhm.
And again, we've always taken this standing of doing what's right for the child, and this enhances everybody's experience. So we're not too concerned at this point, because like, one of the big things that is great for everybody is we got a curb cut at the end of the curb. So now somebody in a wheelchair has another access point. So there were a number of things like that, some push buttons on the doors,
Okay.
all
thanks.
things that were gonna have to be done.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. So that takes us through that. FY '24 budget. And again, what we do here is we have what I call a round system. And in round one, I basically tell the principals, kind of put everything out there so we know what we're looking at. You know, and again, not items need to be done this year, but it's very helpful for a voter or a taxpayer to be able to say, oh, that's been on there a couple of times, so we knew it was going. So in round one, our principals doing their due diligence had a grand total of $1,714,662. All right? I come in round what's called 2.3 on this. And what we're looking at right now, some of the priorities that we've had, we have the curriculum position still in the budget. We try to avoid cutting anything in terms of academics. So pretty much the academic pieces from Dan and Tricia make it through. We have a little more money put into our mentoring program because we'd like to do more because our younger teachers are growing. You know, we saw 2 more retirements tonight. The MTSS curriculum administrator is also in CSDA because we divide that equally by both buildings. The special ed, Lauren has requested a preschool teacher and a speech and language pathologist, half-time. We have 2 paras, but as you know, we're struggling to fill paras. So what we would probably do, these are what I'm going to say program paras. So if we were to fill 2 of our MTSS, the first piece would be to move them to this, and then may fill or may cut from the budget. So that may not stay in there in future rounds, but it would be just because we'll make the conscious decision to move paras that we haven't been able to hire into the budget rather than funding 2 more pieces into the budget that may not get funded. We have replacement equipment. We're on a regular cycle for staff laptops, and that's gone very well. It's basically, we're buying, 5 to 10 in each building per year. If the budget allows it, we'd like to move forward with more interactive flat panels. We're seeing some great success of how teachers are able to integrate traditional lessons with the flat panel and watching students really take that on. From a standpoint of the flat panels, they're also interactive with our Chromebooks. So if I'm the teacher at the board, I could have 2 students displaying their work on the board while I'm talking about it, doing the problem. And obviously that could rotate through the room. So that is another way of just kind of holding kids accountable. We need a copier in the staff room. You see the CSDA request for the laptops and the interactive flat panels. The shared software services, those are kind of mission critical, so those are highly unlikely to be moved out. Dan had started a couple years ago cafeteria tables, phasing them in. The audio meter for the nurse's office, and we put in a dollar amount for design. Now that design might be moved to maintenance trust or some other area to fund it. But we have the same 5,000 in CSDA for their playground design. We've found it's very helpful with the voters to kind of bring forth that plan and say, this is what it is, and then try as best we can to put our best guesstimate on it. And then, taking whatever path, whether it be a lease or a bond or just simply the maintenance trust. We have our annual playground mulch replacement for safeties. We're continuing to try to do
Andy?
more class.
I'm sorry, what do the blue things represent?
Yeah, I was wondering that.
Blue things.
There's some blue highlights around the phone system, burglar alarm, exterior lighting, fire panel, and exterior
Oh, do
doors.
those get moved to maintenance?
Those are gonna come back up in maintenance.
Okay, I
Oh,
figured that's
okay.
probably the answer.
Yeah, and I'm on black and white, so it's.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah,
Um,
what?
So
Where's
it's,
blue?
but I do like it when Kelly sends it to me, because it's like, okay, mentally, I know where it's going. So the blue is going to the maintenance trust. Then, that's kind of a discussion for the board in the future when we go into November, because in November, we'll give you NESDAQ projections on class sizes. We'll talk to you about, we had made a decision a couple of years ago to use some of our ESSER funding, I believe it was, to reduce class sizes. Gina's been tracking that data. We're not sure we'll need to necessarily continue that. We'll still be under our specs. So there's that piece. So in round 2.3, we have an operating budget of $11,663,076, which represents about a 10% increase, which is pretty common at this point in the budget process. And then we have our SAU assessment, the estimate, a maintenance trust estimate, and a special ed trust. One of the other questions that Kelly wanted to put out there is, we still have some critical needs. We're talking fire panels, things of that nature, some HVAC, the CSDA boiler. Like if we had to make a choice, CSDA boiler, as much as RMMS has 9 boilers that are residential, the majority of those are relatively new. So it may not be the smartest thing to just replace them for the sake of replacing, but rather wait till they are at end of useful life. Whereas the CSDA boiler is 20 years old now. So that's going to have to be looked at, and how do we want to look at things like that? Kelly put in a ballpark figure. If you did a lease, and interest rates are all over the place, but she just did $1 million, and that'd be about $65,000. So it's kind of that balancing act, because the other alternative you could do, you could say that you were going to significantly increase maintenance trust. But when you do a significant increase to maintenance trust, you don't spread that out over time. So from a taxpayer point of view, it's a much greater hit. So we're going to come back with more information on that, but wanted to get that out there. And we'll have more specifics around that. If you look under the maintenance expendable trust, we've got in Dan's building a kitchen area roof replacement. We are investigating a burglar alarm, which is at the end of life. RMMS's phone system needs to be updated, and access points for our internet are there. At CSDA, our fire panel is getting to the end of its useful life. So that would be a priority kind of one in the maintenance trust. So if we left it there, then that would probably be the big project for next summer. She's got some exterior doors and some exterior lightings. We're looking at LEDs and things of that nature. So we're looking at, if we did $175,000 to maintenance trust, we have a balance of $71,200. If we did just those repairs out of the maintenance trust, we'd be at $60,950. Okay? So right now, we have to, as we say, scrub the Excel spreadsheet, which is the next phase. We will also be making adjustments based on the 2 known retirements we have. Because if the board made the decision not to continue with the ESSER-funded teacher, all right, with the retirement of a teacher, we wouldn't have anybody being laid off. So there wouldn't be that. And we would save the higher dollar amount from the budget because of that retiring teacher. That would be the number that would be taken out, rather than the teacher who would be moving in that position. Does that make sense? Okay. We also need to go through with Lauren and go through our special ed, because some of the pieces that have been slightly volatile seem to be settling out, where either a child may be being placed, or that we've been able to determine that, no, their career is going to be with us, okay? And we will move forward from there. But I just wanted to really get it out there, because the other piece I'd like the community to be aware of, I know the board is, we also have a teacher's contract. And just my opinion, they're who make the difference. So, we'll look at this. I mean, we can't continue to keep deferring maintenance, but we took a big step in Dan's building. We may have to make the conscious decision to delay and piecemeal, which is okay, we've done that before. Or we may just decide that we'd like to package certain things into a small lease. There are a host of pieces. Next month, we would invite the finance committee, this month, because we're in November, so in about 3 weeks, and we'll have more of what we would call a workshop, which is more of a casual back and forth. What are you thinking? What are your thoughts? And don't forget that we also have the tax cap, which means that we must propose a budget that meets the tax cap. But at the same time, it doesn't prevent us from proposing a budget that we feel the schools need. All right? And in Brookline, you are also part of SB 2, so you also get a default budget. So you'll have basically 3 budgets to look at. What is also not in this that we had talked about is a warrant article for an SRO, but that would be a separate warrant article, but it does come into the overall tax cap piece. Okay. And also understand, because you gave back $455,000, that works in our favor with the tax cap. So it's a major calculation that Kelly will do, and we'll review it a bunch of times to make sure we're set with it. And if the board would like, we can also get you what I'll call some legal advice just on how the different budgets work. Proposing the required tax cap budget, proposing a default budget. How does that impact, deliberative sessions and those things? Because it's something that goes on quite frequently, but it hasn't had to here. Because we've been very fortunate with the voters approving at deliberative session the board's budget and moving that forward. Any questions I can take this early in the process?
No, this overview was was
No.
just super helpful as far as, and now that I have it, going back to the numbers will be easier for me, just knowing that, so, yeah.
And again, sometimes we go quick because we live in the budget.
Yeah.
So please slow us down if there's question. Because
Right.
again, if you have the question, somebody at home probably has the question. And we're just trying to get the budget that, A, provides for the needs of the students, but B, can be supported by the taxpayers.
I'm glad the curriculum coordinator's still in there this round. It's great.
Well, the other piece too, we could potentially look at doing something like we're doing this year,
Right,
and that would phase in money over time.
right.
We can look at when we open the position of special ed, we may want to look at that as a dual role potentially,
Right.
doing special ed and assistant principal. So, there are a lot of things that we can discuss so that you can kind of move forward what you think the community would like. And we'll provide you our opinion and the dollars.
And then my question with the ESSER-funded teacher that we have now, is that going away, that money, or would we have an option to continue if it didn't work out in other ways?
we would have exhausted that funding.
Okay, that's
So-
what I,
Right.
all right.
We didn't get anywhere near what some other districts did.
Okay.
So using it for the teacher was the best way to, we believe, to impact the students.
Right.
We will utilize our REAP money to take out many of the computer items for student bases.
Yeah.
So again, that's why some of this will change, and hopefully it'll work its way down to a dollar amount that we can put forth.
Okay.
So the curriculum administrator looks like one of the drivers, if I'm reading that right. And then I see the special ed personnel, plus then we, down at the bottom, Kelly's called out that we already have the 140, we'll call it 140K in special ed support from personnel, and then 350K in special ed overall cost growth too.
Yes.
And so those are the three
Right.
biggest drivers, right?
Right, but we
Okay.
do want to go through the special ed because, as you know, unfortunately, Amy passed last spring, and she did the out-of-district children. So when I say we need to scrub the budget, we just, Lauren needs to just kind of get the, identify each piece.
Okay.
To make sure we don't have somebody in twice.
Yep.
So we have a long way to go.
And then I just want to level set a little bit. The panel boiler HVAC stuff and the controls that we talked about that we have identified as critical needs, these were part of our option in the warrant last year that was not approved. Is that accurate? So that bond at that rate would have covered this, but
Right.
now we still need it, and we're at a
Money's not as cheap right
couple
now.
points higher on interest rates.
It's
I just,
Yep.
getting worse.
it's
Yep.
not anything more than just a fact, so I just wanted to ask. Okay,
Can I add one more thing? Just because I'm new, and I would like, and I don't know what the process is for a discussion to occur about the resource officer. I know that came
Yep,
up
yep.
at a meeting, but given all the other drivers, I guess if that's what we're, whether that's a priority and the rationale behind that, whether that rationale actually is supported by evidence of, does a school resource officer, I think it came up with the idea of safety, and, it's not a comfortable topic, but quite frankly, having a school resource officer hasn't proved to be a deterrent for much school-related violence. So when we're looking at teacher contracts, when we're looking at something important like a curriculum administrator, safety is super important, but how do we, as a team, get to discuss that if we are trying to prioritize all this? Would that be at another meeting? Would that be
Yes.
in, okay, all right.
Pretty much from starting at the end of this month through moving the budget to public hearing,
Yeah,
all of that is fair game.
okay,
And you will have the ability to bring all your articles that the board wants to public hearing.
okay,
And then you, as a board, could decide we're not going to put something forward because you're changing your priority, or what you heard at the meeting, change your priority as a board.
gotcha,
Okay.
okay.
And has there been any, conversations with, the state in terms of any grant monies for safety? I think there was a proposal.
There is potentially money for a school resource officer or a community resource officer. I don't know which grant is out there. We have enlisted the help of Hollis, because they've been through the process a couple times, to look into it. So we will work with Chief Quigley to see if that's something the police department wants to move forward, because it would be their grant.
Okay.
Our grants for safety, primarily this year, it seems the state is focused on securing entryways. So, we have already done that here. We're doing it already at RMMS. I don't know if our proposal will be supported, but where we're at, the next thing is the walkie-talkie piece.
Yeah.
They wouldn't back fund, since we did that a year or two ahead, where they would give us a credit for that we could use for other stuff, right? That doesn't work that way,
It
does it?
doesn't work
Yeah, I
that
didn't
way.
think so.
It doesn't work that way. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Dan did a great job of covering the renovations. What I was looking for as our last discussion is, I know you met with Gina last month. You decided not to move forward with the proposal that was presented. But I was looking for feedback. What would you like me to bring back at the end of this month with that?
As far as, so, I think that, to me, seemed very, I don't know the exact words, but rigid and kind of confrontational in some ways, and really, I mean, a lot of businesses, and I could come back with a couple of examples, just do school climate surveys, or
Okay.
whatever the climate is, whatever. But just general school climate, to give people a chance to think about their role in school climate, what they'd like to see improved and all that. So to me, my vision of that when we first started talking about it was a much softer ask of people. And the idea of having somebody interview teachers in that sort of a fashion, to me, seemed like it might be intimidating, and I don't want it to be intimidating to anybody. I think it's just, let's get some baseline data about where we're at with school climate, and let's kind of decide from there what to do, what to change, what resources to add. So I didn't bring it for this one, look up a couple of organizations that do it. Some of them are at little to no cost. And it's not a complex survey. I mean, I think the more complicated you make it, the less likely people are to respond. But giving teachers the time to do that, on a professional development day too. So I think it's just good to ask people how they're feeling, how they're doing, and what do they need. And but I didn't mean for it to be. It seemed too rigidly focused on certain factors. So
That's fine.
One of the resources that, and again, I haven't had a chance to look into it in depth, is the U.S. Department of Education has a compendium of high-quality, adaptable education, school climate surveys that can be found on it's EDSCLS, ED School Climate Surveys. And so I wonder if that would be a place to start. I found that it's on safesupportivelearning.ed.gov. I can send that link, put in the minutes.
I like that one too. That's the one. I was actually purple on my computer because that's what I looked up.
If you would,
Because I think we're just looking for something that's
Yep.
like a validated survey
Yeah.
tool
Yep.
that, parents, teachers, and perhaps, I think probably at the high school level, maybe it involves students, but just to get a pulse for the perceptions of students, staff, and parents, just to make data-driven decisions. And, I know that Tricia said at the last meeting, I had asked, had anyone done at a school that did these types of climate surveys? And she said that she had, and I think there was some thought among some folks on the board that they wanted there to be an opportunity for maybe some follow-up interviews. But that's obviously not going to be validated. That's obviously not going to be a validated tool because that's sort of open-ended and qualitative. So I wonder if just starting with something like one of these prepackaged climate survey tools might be a good way just to get a pulse on how we're doing.
would you be okay that, Colleen and Kelly, if you sent me the links,
Yeah.
okay, kind of identify which ones you're looking at, I could put those into this month's packet.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'd be
That
great.
gives everybody at the board an opportunity to read it. Gina and I can review it. It'll be out there publicly for any community member.
Yeah.
And then we could kind of use the majority of our time at the end of this month to focus on, A, the budget, and two, this piece, and see if we can arrive at those two pieces. Because again, that wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing to be able to do, kind of get data over before the holiday, because then we'd have some time to crunch data while it's a little slower,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay? So I'd be happy to do that and put it in, and then we can have a good discussion on that. And what I will do, just so the community knows, I'll try to get them posted somewhere, because I'd like to send them out, and I don't want to just send them to the board and people wonder what you're looking at. So we'll see if we can put these on so that everybody has the advance notice.
I appreciate both of you having the experience in these environments, sharing what you've gone through, what you've experienced. And I work alone, so I bought a space heater and adjust my climate in my office. But it's good to hear. I like the idea of a softer approach. And again, having worked in those environments, you have a better idea. So I'm looking forward to looking at those resources.
How does the data get digested? That's my one concern. So the other option allowed for an independent third party to roll it up and summarize. How does this get digested? That's my one fear here, is that we were trying to do something with it and distill it in meaningful and keep it fairly independent. Where does that go? Do you know, based on?
Well, I think the district would have to sign up for this because it is for school districts, and that would then therefore be shared with the district, but we could decide, I suppose, as a board or with the administration, to have somebody else
I have no problem
digest it.
sharing it. I just
Yeah.
want to know how we.
Yeah.
One of the
I
thoughts
think
with
it's,
Tom was that Tom took it all and he was independent and could provide that feedback to all of us then.
Yeah, I think it's a computer program, and so I think that, I believe that it like sort of gets digested by a program off-site.
Okay.
And the
Yeah.
results come back to us de-identified.
So it summarizes and rolls it up to us then?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would
So you're
not
not
be
gonna see
something that,
Kelly
like-
Zakar said this. You're
Okay.
Yeah.
gonna see
Yeah.
25
And that's the
people.
point where I'm getting at,
Yeah,
is
yeah,
the
it's
point of this,
confidential.
if people don't feel like they can say something, then
Right.
Yeah.
what do we do with it? But, I mean, we all need to be able to read it.
Absolutely, yeah.
I just wanted to keep the ability for people to feel like they can say what they need to say, good and bad,
Yeah.
whatever it is. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Okay, I think that takes us to deliberations.
Yep, all right, so we've got a lot of policy tonight.
It's pretty straightforward.
Okay,
I
Says the
remember
person who's read it a lot.
a lot.
so before we do this, I have an overarching deliberation, and then we're gonna go into specific policies, starting with non-discrimination. So the first one is, I will make a motion to replace his, her with they, their as a matter of practice when reviewing district policies.
Second.
Okay? So again, that's for everything moving forward. Any
Yes.
further discussion there?
I kind of feel like that's the majority of what we did in these is replace.
Very good.
For this round, yeah. Second, oh, we already seconded it. All
Yeah.
right.
Okay, so we'll put it to a vote. All in favor? 4-0, very good, thanks. Okay, so the first one we're gonna move to is AC non-discrimination. I'll make a motion and then we can talk about it. So motion to accept the second reading of policy AC non-discrimination, equal opportunity employment, and district anti-discrimination plan.
Second.
Okay, so you want to,
This is the second reading. I believe it's the same. I don't know if anyone's read it, has any feedback for us to bring back. Any of that one?
I have nothing to offer.
Yeah, so we kind of addressed most of the concerns in the prior meeting, so these are mostly being set forth. This is just a second reading, so you'll see it again.
Okay. All in favor? 4-0, very good.
Second reading, right?
So that's the second reading of that, one more reading for that one. All right, the next one, make a motion to amend by adding the proposed section Roman numeral V, accept the first reading, waive subsequent readings, and adopt policy JLDBB, suicide prevention and response, as amended.
So this one's straightforward. We added this last piece as required. However, the district has already been doing this. This is just getting it into the policy, so they already have identifications on the cards. We've been doing it. We just wanted to update the policy. Kind of feels like it's straightforward, so our recommendation is just adopt.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we were ready to adopt last one, but we wanted to make sure anyone had any feedback. I don't
yeah.
think we received any.
No.
Okay. All those in favor? 4-0. Great. Okay, our third, I will make a motion to accept the second reading, waive subsequent readings, and adopt policy BEDH, public participation at board meetings. Need a second.
Second.
Thank you.
So this one was just incorporating our changes. We had this go through legal and feel like we don't want to recommend any additional changes to the policy. I know there was discussion about
Yep.
restricting reading, however, we can't actually do that legally. You can read anything you wanted if you wanted to. There's,
And what was legal's feedback if we're saying that people can't, it has to be a town resident and it has to be, they can,
you could read from a book if you wanted. You could say, as long as it's not a direct threat or anything that's not protected
Okay.
speech, we can't.
they're allowed their 3 minutes?
They are allowed their 3
Okay.
minutes.
Thanks for that.
Yep, so our recommendation is also second reading and adopt this. But I will bring anything back if you are uncomfortable with that, and we can continue discussing.
The only change then is just making it 30 minutes then, right?
Right, which
Yeah.
we're required to.
Which we had to by law.
Right.
That's,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor? 4-0. Great. Okay, let me make sure I'm on the right one.
It's JICK.
JICK, okay. So this is our third reading. So I'll make a motion to accept the third reading and adopt policy JICK, people safety and violence prevention, bullying, as amended.
Second. This was updating pronouns and I believe adding that last section that helps identify, I think, Colleen, your concerns about notification. Where is it? Is it 12?
Member Mikovic stated her concern had been if this had come to this point, we are working with the student accused and notifying their family.
Right.
But the
Right.
student who is on the other side of the situation needs to know that this is occurring.
I think it was in 12.
I'm sorry I didn't get this far before the meeting. I tried to,
It's
but
okay.
I
Trying to
know you had
remember.
addressed it,
I'm
yeah.
trying to remember where it is.
I know you had added language in there.
Yeah.
So the sentence we inserted is, if the selected
Yeah.
remedial measure requires the victim's participation,
Yes,
the victim's family will be notified of the remedial measure.
yes, that's
Right.
perfect.
Okay.
To me, I mean,
So thank you for finding that.
Sure.
thank you.
So that is, unless you have other feedback, we recommend adoption of this as well.
Okay, put it to a vote. All in favor? 4-0. Very good. Okay, our next one is a third reading of IHAM. So this is, I'll make a motion to accept the third reading and adopt policy IHAM.
Second.
IHAM, health education and exemption from instruction.
Second, this one, I believe, put in the notes, there were no updates or changes, no feedback, so it's ready for adoption.
Yeah.
That looks good.
Look at that, Brookline getting through some great
Okay.
policy.
All in favor?
That's fine.
4-0?
And
That's it.
And there's a last piece from policy. We are looking into the volunteer piece and what's required for volunteers for training. And through, is it Primex is our insurance carrier, and the company, I can't remember, it's just with a V now, where you log in to do your training.
Yeah.
There may be potentially different tiers. So perhaps if you take one training, it will cover you, and you just have to take a refresher the next year. So that is being looked into, so everyone should be happy.
I
And
actually
hopefully-
wanted, the last time you had said it might be about 6 hours. I'm actually going through it now.
It's a lot.
And it is a lot. I mean, and I think it's called Vector.
Vector, thank you.
And for people who already have to do that training somewhere else at the beginning of the year to then listen to it again and then have some of it is such important information, but I could have summarized some of it in like 3 sentences. If a student says anything to you that is at all concerning and you're a substitute, report it to, it just was 2 hours. It is close to 4 hours, I think, total, so, thank you. It's hard because you want to balance making sure people who don't have training know what they're doing and don't make a mistake, which I can totally see that as the point. With the other piece is you can read it a lot quicker than you have to listen to it. So if there's even that little adjustment, that if you can read it all, do you have to wait for 3 minutes for the person to slowly read it? It's just, so anyway. I know I had said it's not that long, and now I'm trying to get through it. I asked for an extension, which I guess I didn't need, but.
No, I'm excited to volunteer in that new library someday at
Yeah.
RMS. I had to get my training in.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Follow the rules.
I did my training. Ready.
All right.
I'm ready, waiting for the library.
Last, we have a non-public. I'm going to make a motion, and then we'll go into that. So I'll make a motion that the board, by roll call, go into non-public session pursuant to RSA 91A32B, the hiring of any person as a public employee, and RSA 91A32C, to discuss a matter which, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of a person other than a member of the body or agency itself.
Second.
Seconded? So we'll go roll call. Kelly, we'll start with you.
Kelly Zacher, aye.
Colleen Mikovich, aye.
Karen, I.
Ken, aye. So we are going in non-public at 7:31. We will adjourn in non-public, and we can close it down here for the evening.